Set It Off. By far, they are the smallest band that we've reviewed in this series, but there's still one that's impactful, both on my life and the music sphere in general. As far as my personal connection to the band is concerned, Set It Off is so important to me because my brother introduced them to me. These days, maybe we don't talk about that band as much as we used to, but back in the day when he was first putting me on to Set It Off, this was a band that I cannot put down, and it was one that brought us closer as brothers, something that is pretty cool to me. As for their impact on the music sphere as a whole, I think they are really impactful as pioneers of independent music. Over the last few years, it feels like there's been a big shift in the music world from being on a label and the importance of having a label backing your project to self-releasing, independently releasing. We see artists all the time getting their start independently or separating from their own label, making their own or self-releasing. Now, maybe you've never heard of Set It Off, but if you ask me, they are an incredibly important player in that movement. And with the band gearing up to release their self-titled album in just a few days from now, it seems like the perfect opportunity to finally dive into this band and share my love for them with all of you. So sit back, relax, and enjoy, because I listen to every Set It Off album, so you don't have to. In September of 2012, Set It Off would release their debut studio album, Cinematics. This was one innovative and impactful album, and it still is. Now, depending on who you ask, this might be an album that you grow out of over time, and I see that. It's definitely one that is angsty and can feel overly angsty at times, but for me, I f***ing love this album. It's so good. As generic or cliche as this is gonna sound, Cinematics is an album that earns its title. This is a truly cinematic project, featuring grand string ensembles and nasty horn sections, blended in with a traditional 2010s rock outfit. Now look, I'll be the first to tell you that Set It Off are nowhere near the first people to blend those classical and rock elements. I mean, just look at Mariana's Trench, for crying out loud. But I still think they're one of the best to do it, and Cinematics is an example of that philosophy. Cinematics also stands out because it introduces us to lead singer and songwriter Cody Carson. Across the 14 songs of Cinematics, Cody introduces himself to us as an incredibly personal songwriter and an incredibly qualified singer. Many of the songs on Cinematics draw from his personal experiences or anecdotes from his life. He doesn't just share relatable stories and themes, bland stories that have no meaning or feeling behind them. Cody puts us into his shoes. He lets us see things from his point of view, a strength of his that is going to carry long throughout Set It Off's career. With that out of the way, let's talk about the 3 singles of Cinematics, those being I'll Sleep When I'm Dead, Swan Song, and Partners in Crime. Straight up, these are 3 incredibly powerful singles, so choosing exactly where to start is tricky, but the place that I'm choosing is Swan Song, one of my personal favorite Set It Off songs. I love how this track starts the song off with a snippet of the chorus, giving us a brief but good build-up into the meat of the song. The entirety of Swan Song is paced brilliantly, with fast verses that, with the help of an excellent pre-chorus, segue perfectly into the chorus of the song. Even when I'm burnt out on Set It Off, Swan Song is a tune that I come back to pretty frequently, and that has not been an exception for this video. I've been listening to the song so much. Now, normally I would keep talking about the singles for a bit, but I actually want to kind of dip away and come back later because there's a song I'm just itching to talk about from Cinematics, and that would be Nightmare. Following the extended intro of Thoughts That Breathe, Set It Off comes out swinging with Nightmare, one of my favorite songs not only from Cinematics, but of all time from the band. It truly feels like a dire and exciting start to Cinematics, with these darker themes and aggressive vocals. Nightmare, if you can guess from the title, is all about fighting those internal demons like anxiety and depression, personifying them as a bad dream that you can't wake up from. It's a powerful start to a powerful debut album, and that's about all I can ask for. Moving on from Nightmare, let's talk about a song that I think is a fan favorite among Set It Off fans, that being Dreamcatcher. Dreamcatcher is a song that uses dynamics perfectly. Every single verse has such a great swell up into these grand choruses, and while the subject matter of the song is pretty simple, I don't think Dreamcatcher is a song that really requires anything too profound on the songwriting front. Now, I've got to be sort of in the right mood, the right mindset for this next song, but when I am, let me tell you, Distance Disturbs Me hits different. I love the entire song, don't get me wrong, but I want to focus on the chorus of the song in particular, which has such an electric and exciting flow. As is to be expected, everyone's performances are sharp and polished, especially Cody's vocals. In a similar vein to Distance Disturbs Me, I'd Rather Drown is a track that hits really hard when I'm in an angsty mood. This song features one of my favorite choruses on the entire album, with a blood-pumping tempo and great use of syncopation. I also love how everything besides Cody's vocals cut out for the very end, where he's left alone to say, "I'd rather drown." And of course, I would also be remiss if I didn't mention the brief but brutal scream leading into the bridge. Sometimes I forget that Set It Off got its roots with heavy music, and it's always a nice surprise when I turn to cinematics. Those were two pretty high-octane, blood-pumping songs, but let's put the brakes on for a bit. Remember how I said that Cody's really great at putting people into his shoes and telling a story from his eyes, seeing it from his perspective? That's what this next song is, Dad's Song. Whenever I think about Cody's strengths as a songwriter, Dad's Song is immediately the first one that comes to mind. Cody's father passed away when he was young, and as you can probably guess from the title, this song is dedicated to him, recalling memories, talking about how his advice helped Cody throughout his life, and saying the words that he wished he had said before he passed. Cody's father passed away when he was young, and as you can probably guess from the title, this song is dedicated to his father, recalling fond memories, talking about how his father's advice helped him through life, and saying the words Cody wished he had said before and could say now. This is not only one of the most moving tracks on the entirety of Cinematics, but in their entire discography in general, and it shouldn't be hard to see why. I mean, hit play, try to not cry, cry a lot. It's just the meme template there. While up until this point, the songs that I've talked about have been pretty firm with my opinions on, one that I've been super back and forth on is Freak Show. It always confuses me in the intro, kind of leaves me wondering, oh, do I really like this or not? But by the time it hits the 15-second mark, I am pretty swiftly reminded of just why I love this song so much. The classic instrumentation, while simple, is a huge high point on this track, really giving Freak Show a lot more flavor and color than if it was just a standard rock song. The bridge is also another high point in the song, with a theatrical spoken intro and great build-up into a grand final chorus. And of course, to round out Cinematics, we have to talk about the grand finale. This is another one that I go back and forth on quite a lot, but right now I'm really enjoying it. It's hard to deny that the grand finale is quite a grand finale to Cinematics, at least for the normal edition of the album. With what feels like an entire orchestra backing the band, some heavy percussion drops, and a vocal performance from Cody that perfectly balances aggression and melodicism, what more could you ask for? How else could you possibly end Cinematics than the grand finale? Now, normally I'm not so fond of bonus tracks and deluxe albums, but Cinematics is one of the exceptions to that rule, starting with Kill the Lights, one of my favorite Set It Off songs of all time. I've said that like 3 times now, and we're only on the first album. This might be forecasting a bit. Fast pacing, energetic violins, aggressive guitars, chilling gang vocals in each chorus. I don't know what else I have to say. Kill the Lights has it all. This is one that I'd kill to see live. But I wouldn't kill the lights for it, because then you wouldn't be able to see the band. I would kill another human being for this. That can't go in the video. Earlier in the video, I said that we were eventually going to return to the singles, and this is that point. You might not have heard Cinematics in its entirety. You might not know more than 1 or 2 Set It Off songs, but if you do know a Set It Off song, there's a good chance it might be Partners in Crime. Partners in Crime is admittedly a song that took quite a bit of time to grow on me. Now that it has, though, over 4 years, there are a lot of qualities in this song that I appreciate, starting with the feature of Ash Costello of New Year's Day. To me, a good feature track is one where a featured artist feels intentional, not just an additional vocalist for the hell of it, for the sake of having another singer. In the case of Partners in Crime, Ash's feature serves to add a back and forth with Cody, bringing that metaphor of partners in crime to life with how they play off of each other and finish each other's sentences. Like every track that came before it, Partners in Crime features cinematic strings and keeps the tempo moving from start to finish. Even if it's just a bonus track, it feels like it could have made just as moving of a closing track as the grand finale. It's just so good. Yeah, this is a no skip album. I'm sorry. I really dug and dug and dug and dug, and I tried to find one negative thing to say about Cinematics. I got nothing. I wasn't expecting to hate this album because this has, for a long time, been one of the higher ranking albums in Set It Off's catalog for me. I was not expecting to love this one as much as I did. This felt like falling in love all over again, meeting a new best friend for the first time and realizing, oh shit, this is gonna be a lot bigger than just something random. Does that make sense? Anyways, that is neither here nor there. We've got like 4 or 5 more albums to talk about. Let's cruise through these things. I want to go to bed. Duality, the sophomore album from Set It Off, released in October of 2014 when I was just starting high school, which is kind of crazy to think about. This one's pretty solid too. I'll be the first to say that this is an album that I've been quite stubborn towards over the years, and on this re-listen, I legitimately cannot tell you why. Now, fun piece of Dalton lore for the channel real quick. For the last 5.5 years at this point, I've been listening to a new album every single Monday. It started right before COVID hit as a way for me to kind of expose myself to new music, get my head out of the gutter, get a better handle on my mental health, and keep myself occupied. And the album that started this trend was Duality. Literally, if you scroll through my notes app, if you scroll through my reminders app, this is the first album you will find in that list. That being said though, I was really stubborn toward this album for years. Like, there were 5 tracks that I would bounce between and I wouldn't touch any of the rest of the album. That being said, I had my first re-listen of Duality in 5 years during this video, and I can't tell you what I was thinking. On God, I don't know why I was so distasteful towards Duality. And look, I don't personally think it's stronger than Cinematics, but it's not bad. This is still a really fun album. I don't know what I am just simply baffled. Like I said, I don't think it's stronger than Cinematics, but I do think it showcases the band's growth perfectly. This sees the band evolving on their sound, putting a dash of pop influence into their sound. This is something that the band is gonna really develop on their next album, and it's not perfect on that album. But in the case of Duality, it's not that bad. It doesn't overshadow anything, doesn't take away from the rock sound that we've come to love since Cinematics, and that's enough for me. All right, let's talk about Duality's 7 singles. This is actually absurd. Those singles are Why Worry, NME, Tomorrow, Ancient History, Forever Stuck in Our Youth, The Haunting, and Duality. That's just so many singles. To clarify real quick, only the first 3 were released before the album actually came out. They didn't release 7 singles and then release 4 songs after that and call it an album. That would be crazy, right, if you theoretically did that. Let's start with the lead single, Why Worry, another song that I've slept on for years, one that grew on me over so much time. Why Worry takes a very humanizing approach to anxiety and overthinking. The idea of worrying over something can be worrying in itself, to the point where we can forget that to worry is to be human. To me, Why Worry preaches the fact that sometimes worrying is good, in a sense that it shows we still feel. Either way, the instrumental Why Worry is also really moving. I haven't spent all that much time in church, to be honest, but it does feel like an upbeat worship song in some ways. Ancient History is another single that I love, one that I've adored since my very first listen of Duality. Ancient History has great pacing and great use of dynamics, and I'll be damned if that chorus doesn't get stuck in my head immediately. It's a simple song, all things considered, but it's to the point. It never overstays its welcome, but it also takes time getting to a point, nailing pacing on the head. Like I said, this is one that I'm pretty nostalgic towards, having been a fan of it since my first listen of Duality, so maybe I'm looking at it from a biased perspective, but Ancient History is one of my favorites off of Duality as a whole, and I don't see that ever changing anytime soon. In a similar vein to Why Worry, Forever Stuck in Our Youth is an example of a song that left my jaw hanging open on my first listen, wondering just how I slept on this song for so many years. Right from the first note, from the first words of the song, I found my head bobbing along, sympathizing with the lyrics and loving the edgy performance. Forever Stuck almost feels like a show tune to me, with the sort of peppy drums and perspective of the song. It really does feel like a song that Cody sings for an audience or for a stage partner, and not just into a microphone for the sake of making a song. And of course, we cannot talk about Duality, the album, without talking about Duality, the song, another one that's been a close personal favorite of mine for years. Cody's been known to get his rap on over the years and Set It Off, and Duality feels like an early instance of that. Now, we'll talk more about that later, trust me. But in this context, I think it's tasteful, and it doesn't ever get overbearing. Cody's flow on Duality is electric, and keeps the song moving from fast-paced verses into dramatic choruses. This performance is also aided by Max on the drums, which feels so fast you'd think it's an artificial beat. It feels so reminiscent of Josh Dun to me, which, if you know anything about my feelings towards 21 Pilots, you know that's quite the compliment. And while it's definitely not my favorite closer on any Set It Off album, Miss Mysterious is still one that I find to be pretty moving and effective, especially in the context of Duality. Miss Mysterious really takes its time building up to a grand release of pressure, with a soulful piano performance and emotional delivery of lyrics working together to establish this pacing. I love how gradually each other member of the band comes in with their own performances, adding something new to the song, helping to build up the pressure as we head into that final chorus and key change. At 4.5 minutes long, Miss Mysterious also never feels like it drags or overstays its welcome, even with its slower pacing. It just works. Would you believe me though, if I told you that the most impactful song on this entire album, and possibly in Set It Off's entire career, wasn't even a single? No, I'm not kidding. It's Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. Wolf is by far the band's most impactful song, if you ask me. It's crazy that this song is as big as it is without ever being a single, without ever having a music video. It's literally just aura farming in the form of song, and I stand by that. Regarding the song itself though, it's not difficult to see just why Wolf popped off in the ways it did. It's aggressive, it's angsty, it's got a great feature from William Beckett of The Academy Is. I don't know what more I can possibly say about the song that hasn't already been said. Wolf in Sheep's Clothing is a great song, and you're never gonna change my mind. There are two songs that I'm not super crazy about on Duality, but they're very nitpicky, very quick notes. So let's start with Bleak December. It's just all right. It's not great, it's not terrible, it's just fine. It almost feels like a precursor in some ways to the next Set It Off album, which we'll obviously talk about later. But yeah, as unconstructive as it sounds, this is just not one that I'm all that fond of. The other track that I'm not too crazy about is Bad Guy, but that one's a little more of a complicated story. When I first listened to Duality 5 years ago, I loved Bad Guy. It was one of the 5 songs that I came back to, but it's one that's fallen off for me over the years. On this most recent listen, I found it to be a song that lacked substance and a rewarding payoff. I think Cody's performance in the chorus, paired with the calm piano, is moving, but beyond that, not much is really drawing me back to this track. It's not offensive or horrid, don't get me wrong, it's just not a song that I find to be all that exciting whatsoever. While I do find it to be a step down from Cinematics, as I've said far too much in this section of the video, I think it's still a pretty effective follow-up, an effective sophomore album. Just like the albums that came before it, Duality is balanced, and whereas Cinematics was balancing aggression with melodicism, this one feels more like balancing genres, having a twinge of pop influencing that rock sound. I've already hinted at my feelings on the next album, and I think part of my distaste for it is the lack of balance stylistically. So without further ado, I guess we'll talk about it. Upside Down is the 3rd album from Set It Off, and it released in October of 2016. I've got some thoughts about this one. Moving from Cinematics into Duality was a progression that I think was kind of predictable, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It felt like the route the band was gonna take, and it's something that paid off for them. Upside Down, on the other hand, I think I can only describe as a sharp departure from anything else the band has done yet. And that may be fine for some, but for me, it is a super hit or miss album. Stylistically speaking, it's fine. I don't know. I'm not impressed. Upside Down doesn't really feel like it's as outgoing of an album as its predecessors. It doesn't really feel like it's pushing the envelope in the ways that Cinematics or Duality did. And it more feels like it's just conforming to what was popular at the time. Personally, I find this to be a pretty big step down from the likes of Cinematics and Duality, and to me, Upside Down is an album that fails to make Set It Off stand out against other artists, and even actively serves to keep them in the background, kind of blending them in with other bands. I also see Upside Down struggling from a songwriting standpoint. We've praised Cody and the band in the past for writing very personal songs that feel like you're being placed right into their shoes, and that's just not how I feel with Upside Down. Upside Down feels like it just kind of threw away that writing, instead favoring bland and generic lyrics that sometimes lean unrelatable. It feels like less of us being told a story and more of us being told a message. And the messages in these songs are good, they're moving, they're relatable. They just don't feel nearly as personal as the rest of the music we've talked about. Anyways, that's enough whining for now. Let's talk about Upside Down's 4 singles, those being Uncontainable, Something New, Life Afraid, and Hypnotized. All things considered, 75% of these are very good opening tracks, but the one that I want to start with is Something New. Something New is a pretty solid opening track, probably my favorite since Nightmare, and a way more natural ease into the sound of Upside Down than the lead single. It still has a rock influence, as does most of Upside Down, but also eases us into the more pop-driven focus of Upside Down. It's not an immediate ripoff of the Band-Aid, it's gradual. And as much as I don't always love the cheesy, happy-go-lucky tone that Upside Down has, I won't deny that something new at least sets it well. So that is something to praise. All right, now, what do y'all know about fun songs? Let me tell you about one of my favorite fun songs in this album, that being Life Afraid. Look, I said it before, I'll say it again, this is just a fun song. It's so much fun. It's got great gang vocals, the tempo moves along at a good speed, what's not to love? I think this is a rare example of an Upside Down track that actually nails the perspective, feeling a bit more personal than the rest of the album. Life Afraid feels like a conversation with a therapist or notes in a journal rather than just words sung in an audience, something that I'm incredibly grateful for. If any song on Upside Down is a guilty pleasure for me, it would be, well, Upside Down. I'm not even really that guilty about it though. The title track features great instrumentation with a bold horn section and nostalgic keyboard driving things forward. I'm personally especially fond of the trombone solo as a trombonist myself. Yeah, I don't know, man, this is just another fun one. Yeah, it's fine. Diamond Girl, on the other hand, is not one that I go back to all that frequently these days, but one that I love regardless. It's just got a bit of a groovy and fun beat. Is that really all I've got to say? Is that really all I wrote? Yeah, no, I guess so. Yeah, no, just trust me. Diamond Girl's solid. It's like perfect bowl of porridge, like 6, 7 out of 10. So, you know, God, I hate myself. All right, that's enough of Diamond Girl for now. Let's talk about Admit It, a song that sounds like Set It Off tried to make an Imagine Dragons song. I don't know, it's a weird vibe. I guess that's not to say that it's bad, at least in the context of Upside Down. It's a high point. It's okay. Cody's flow on this track is not only natural, but fits the pacing of the song perfectly. And every chorus feels like an explosion of emotions. I don't have all that much else to say about Admit It. I just think it's powerful. Again, at least in the context of this album. If I had to pick a favorite song off of Upside Down, God, I wouldn't really want to. But without a shadow of a doubt, my favorite track on the album would be Never Know. Never Know almost feels like a coming of age song in some ways, a moment of encouraging yourself to set aside fear and take a risk. For me, it is a huge confidence booster, a song that encourages me to tackle those risks I'm terrified to take, even when I know that there's not a whole lot of risk in the first place. Never Know also features a heavier or more blatant presence of traditional rock instrumentation, especially in the percussion. It doesn't exactly sound like any of their other projects, but it's still really engaging and exciting regardless. Okay, so just like Duality, there are 2 songs off of Upside Down that I want to talk about that I'm not so fond of. But if you ask me, these 2 are distinctly worse than Bleak December and Bad Guys. So let's start with Me Without Us, a song that I sort of consider to be an underwhelming bummer to close out the album with, especially following Hypnotize and Crutch. It almost feels like Set It Off trying their best to make an Ed Sheeran song with how simple the instrumental is, especially with how the guitar provides sort of some unnatural melody and percussion in the same performance. I don't know, it's not their worst song ever, but it's certainly far from their best. This is not one that I almost ever go back to. It's very much just okay. There is a song that I distinctly enjoy less than Me Without Us though. Me Without Us, I can sort of tolerate. One that I cannot stand whatsoever though is Uncontainable. I'll be the first to say it, I used to love Uncontainable, and going back now, I can't tell you why. This is so much cringier and lame than I remember it being. It really fits in with that stereotypical, overplayed mid-2010s alt-radio rock sound, right in the same vein as Centuries by Fall Out Boy and Believer by Imagine Dragons. I almost wish that I was a fan back in 2016 just so I could gauge the initial reactions to this song, because it feels like such a blatant departure from anything the band had done prior, from the sound that led them to such impressive levels of success. Bands can make a sharp pivot in their sound and have it be successful, and I think it's even necessary for bands to do that to keep evolving and staying fresh. But it doesn't always work. In the case of Uncontainable, that has never been more clear. Man, that was unfortunate. I don't think there's another word that I have for that. Look, Upside Down has its high points, and if this is your album, that's so okay. Please don't take anything I'm saying too seriously. It's just an opinion at the end of the day. But man, I cannot picture choosing this one over either Cinematics or Duality. It's just so cut and dry for me. Thankfully, Set It Off was ready to change the pace again in 2019. In February of 2019, Set It Off would release their 4th studio album, Midnight. I'm like already getting giddy thinking about this album. I'm so excited to talk about Midnight. This was my very first Set It Off album that I ever listened to, recommended to me by my brother. And because of that, it was my favorite for many, many years. And it's still up there. That being said, it's an album that I have been burned out on for a really long time. I listened the fuck out of this album. You don't understand. So this is the first time that I've listened to Midnight in, I don't even know how long. Stylistically, I think it's probably closest to Duality, but that doesn't even really feel like that fair of a comparison. I think the best way that I can contextualize it is you took the kind of angsty rock from Duality and some of the more pop electronic influence of Upside Down, splashed them together, and you got Midnight. And it works. Once again, we've reached a state of balance with this album. I'm trying to think if I've got anything else for the general overview. I think that's it. Why don't we just move on to the singles? There are, once again, a lot. Midnight singles include Killer in the Mirror, Lonely Dance, Dancing with the Devil, For You Forever, Midnight Thoughts, and Hourglass. To me, this collection of singles is like one nuclear bomb after another, but the place that I want to start is Killer in the Mirror, the opening track of Midnight. Even in my months and years of Set It Off burnout, Killer in the Mirror is usually a track that I cannot put down. It feels like a return to form following the peppy Upside Down, leaning a little heavier into some of that Cinematics Duality angst that the band is so well known for. Killer in the Mirror is aggressive and unapologetic, with a nasty and iconic bridge that fits right in with their heavier modern sound. Personally, while I haven't seen them live yet, I really hope Killer in the Mirror is a track that never leaves the set list. If we're talking about my Set It Off burnout though, if there's any track I've burned out on the hardest, it's probably Hourglass. During the height of my Set It Off obsession in COVID, I went from loving Hourglass to skipping it on regular listens in a pretty short span of time. This is not one that I've gone back to all that frequently, but now that I've had a few years away from it, yeah, it's pretty solid. I'm enjoying it. Of the singles, I think it's still on the lower end for me, but it's got great pacing and flow regardless. Hourglass feels like a very fluid song. It's always moving and upbeat in some way, and even when the instrumentation creates a slower feel, it's brief and purposeful, accentuating an important point of the song. On Upside Down, I talked about how the band really struggled to put the listeners into their shoes as opposed to just kind of shouting messages at the listeners, and I'm happy to say that they're finally getting some of that magic back, starting with Lonely Dance. As you can probably guess from what I just said, perspective is something that Lonely Dance nails. The writing on this song is impeccable. Once again, coming off as like a journal entry or a furious vent session to a friend rather than just a shouted message. Yeah, that's all I wrote for Lonely Dance too. Dancing with the Devil fills a sort of similar role, but it feels less like Cody journaling or talking to himself, and more like a direct message or a warning to the audience member listening to it. Right from the start, it feels like a very dramatic and dark song, and once again, Cody nails the perspective. Certain points feel like he's talking to an ex-partner, certain points feel like a precautionary tale to other people. Either way, there's so many ways that you can interpret this song, and that's what I love about Dancing with the Devil. As far as pacing and sonics are concerned, Dancing with the Devil also sounds like a dance song, not necessarily bumping in the club or fucking people up in the mosh pit, but maybe a heavy waltz. It also features an amazing bridge that uses swelling dynamics and rapid lyricism effectively to lead us into the final chorus of the song. It's just so damn good. I talked before about how features can often feel forced when they don't service the song that they're a part of, and in the case of Go to Bed Angry, the feature is just perfect. In the context of Go to Bed Angry, Cody and Casey bring this story of a relationship to life, of some desperate argument that's tearing a couple apart, and they don't want to go to bed angry, a philosophy that I think is so incredibly healthy for couples. It's a simple song as far as lyrics are concerned, but I don't think the song demands anything insanely complex. It's a simple message, it's a moving story, and that's just about all you need. Criminal Minds, on the other hand, is a song that always just kind of catches me off guard in a really positive way. Something about that violin intro into the lone guitar riff just sends chills through me whenever this song comes on. It's such a great way to start off the track, and an interesting creative choice considering how much the song changes from that point. I also love the lead-ups into each chorus. Even if the lyrics do get a bit repetitive, the build-up into a grand release of drums and guitar in each chorus is so damn satisfying. Criminal Minds sort of feels like a deep cut from their catalog. I'm not really sure, to be honest. I don't engage in that much Set It Off discourse, but all I know is that I really enjoy it. And if you ask me, that's all that matters. Moving on, let's talk about No Disrespect. A satisfying and cathartic song if you're going through a breakup, just like I was when I was first presented with this album. Yeah, it's safe to say I lashed onto this one pretty quick in the moment. Look, this is another one that's pretty surface level as far as songwriting goes, but again, that doesn't mean it's bad whatsoever. It's nasty, it's angsty, it's confrontational, but even with that, it's got some really sensitive, reserved moments alongside the never want to see you again vibes. The bridge of this song is surprisingly composed, and maybe mature isn't the right word, but it feels like it's a complete shift in tone from the rest of the song. And it just catches me off guard in such a cool way. All right, it's about time. I've been waiting for this moment very eagerly to talk about my favorite Set It Off song of all time, Unopened Windows. Yeah, I know, I'm basic as screw you. Unopened Windows is a song with beautiful writing that, in my opinion, completely blows anything else from the album out of the water. That's not to say I consider Midnight to be a poorly written album, I just think Unopened Windows is that good. On top of that, it's one of Cody's best vocal performances. His voice is smooth, emotional, moving, pairing perfectly with the personal, sensitive lyrics and somber piano lines he's written. Unopened Windows is always a song that brings me close to tears whenever I hear it. I don't recommend queuing it up on the highway for that very reason, because you need your eyes to drive. But yeah, God, I love this song so much. Now, normally I would move into the sort of negative tracks, but I've got sort of a transitional one for that. One that I have a lot of trouble deciding if I love or hate, and that would be Happy All the Time. I guess we'll start with the negatives. I think Happy All the Time is an incredibly weak closing track. This is the final track on the album. That's weird. I guess thematically, Unopened Windows flows well into it, from a track of sadness and mourning into a song of recovery and care, but I don't know, I just think Unopened Windows would have been such a better note to end the album on. That being said though, while I find it to be a really jarring placement on the track list, Happy All the Time is anthemic to me. A song that I know I can always lean on in my darkest times. It's not necessarily happy-go-lucky, everything's gonna be all right, but it's a song that feels very humanizing, with a constant reminder that it's fine to not be happy all the time. No matter how it impacts the flow of Midnight as a whole, Happy All the Time is a Set It Off song that's always gonna be really meaningful and special to me. But yeah, the placement on the track list sucks. With that, we roll into the tracks that I'm outwardly not so fond of, and there's actually quite a few here. I think Midnight has a bit of dead weight, starting with Midnight Thoughts. Look, I really wish I could enjoy this track more, given that it's about as close as we're gonna get to a title track for Midnight, but it just disappoints me. Midnight Thoughts feels like a very safe track to me. It's not necessarily something I'd call bad, but it certainly doesn't impress me either. The subject matter is good and different from a lot of what we've heard so far, but that's about the nicest thing I can say about it. Yeah, I don't know. I've never been crazy with this one. The other two tracks I want to talk about are just so damn forgettable to me, starting with Raise No Fool. Like I said, this is one forgettable track, and I'm doing my due diligence here. I have listened to a lot of Midnight over the years, and I can still barely tell you how this song goes and what its themes are. Yeah, it's got a groovy bass and guitar line, the instrumental's alright, but that's about all I've got from it. That's about all the positive things I can say. I just really don't see myself going back to Raise No Fool anytime soon, but again, that's just me. If this is your jam, no hate to you. Right next to Raise No Fool, another track that I find to be quite forgettable is I Want You Gone. At the very least, it's got a fun sax line, so I can't be too mad, but beyond that, there isn't really much in I Want You Gone that draws me to it. It's just, again, forgettable, but that's just me. All right, Midnight is about as good as I remember it to be. That was a very pleasant listen, and it was nice coming back to it after a few years. We've got one more album to talk about because the new one still isn't out. I'm recording this in advance, so let's just fly into that. Elsewhere, the fifth studio album from Set It Off was released in March of 2022. Now look, I remember being really excited when this album was first getting announced, and I remember really enjoying it when it first came out, but I can't tell you why that was. Once again, I am giving this album the due diligence it deserves. I've gone back to this album so many times, and every single time I do, it just fails to stick with me. You'd think I'd enjoy it with how stylistically similar a lot of the tracks are to Midnight, but no dice. Overwhelmingly, the album just feels so unmemorable to me, which is really unfortunate. I want to circle back to that for a second, comparing it to Midnight. I find this album to be sort of directionless, sort of uncertain of what it's trying to be. And I think that's what kind of pushes me away at times. It sounds like something I've already heard before, or it sounds like something that isn't confident enough to just be itself. And that, I don't know, it lacks confidence to me, and that's really distracting. It's also a bit long for my tastes. With a few exceptions to the rule, generally I think 12 to 15 songs is like perfect studio album length, and Set It Off exceeds that upper limit by one song. At 48 minutes, it's not egregious. I guess I'll just take what I can get. Let's just talk about the singles. Elsewhere contains 5 singles, those being Skeleton, Projector, Who's in Control, Why Do I, and Dangerous. These are certainly 5 of the singles of all time, but within the context of Elsewhere, they're probably some of the better songs off the album, starting with Skeleton, one of 2 songs that I regularly find myself returning to from Elsewhere. And even then, it's just okay. Next to Uncontainable, I think this is one of the band's weakest lead singles in their entire career, but it's leagues above Uncontainable and good enough to get the job done. For me, the verses are the high point of this track, with an awesome instrumental and drum beat to pump things forward. Beyond that, I think the remainder of Skeleton is pretty underwhelming, but it still stands as a high point of Elsewhere, so once again, I will take what I can get. Whereas I've been pretty fond of Skeleton since it came out, one that I've been going back and forth on a lot is Why Do I? After really thinking it over and listening to the song a lot, I think there are more things that I like about it than I hate. To me, it feels like a track inspired by the band Camino, alt-rock with a bit of an electronic synthy touch to it. It's probably not one that I'll go back to all that frequently, but for the time being, it's a nice surprise. Also, did you know there's a version of this song with Hatsune freaking Miku on it? I don't know how that happened either, but it sure does exist. I actually do like that version a bit. I don't listen to that much Miku, by which I don't listen to any Miku, but you know, it actually kind of worked out nice. Miku, Miku, Miku! With that, I've talked about pretty much all the singles that I have positive things to say about, so let's talk about one of the songs of the album that I found myself really enjoying on this most recent listen, and that being Cut Off. Is it weird to say this track is kinda groovy? I don't know if it holds a candle to any of the other album's high points, but within the context of Elsewhere, it's pretty fun. The whistling gets old really fast, but I think Cut Off is a great performance from every band member, especially Max on the drums. For me, the chorus is the high point of the song, where every single band member gets something exciting to do. This truly feels like a song where everyone gets to shine, not just 1 or 2 people. Taste of the Good Life, on the other hand, is the first song on this album that truly sounds different, like it's part of a new era. Even then, it's not perfect, but it feels like a breath of fresh air following the likes of Who's in Control and Loose Cannon. Max's drum beat paired with Cody's vocals and flow are an addictively catchy combination. I also think the bridge on Taste is pretty effective, with a sudden drop in dynamics that faked me out into thinking the song was already over. It was quite literally a pleasant surprise. Without a shadow of a doubt though, I know what my absolute favorite song on this entire album is, and that would be Cordial. I would have loved a Set It Off album in this style, with that influence of classical instrumentation blended into Set It Off's established pop rock sound, but that's neither here nor there. Verse, chorus, and bridge, Cody is the one that I feel like shines the most on this song. His flow is electric, his lyrics come across as dark and serious without being too angsty or edgy, and he uses a really wide range of dynamics to his advantage. Plus that chorus is so damn catchy. It gets stuck in my head so fast. If you're sleeping on this song, wake up. All right, so with that, we end up in the territory of some negative songs. And again, if these songs are your fancy, no hate to you whatsoever. Let's start with Loose Cannon. Personally, the chorus of this song just feels a little bit repetitive to me, and the verses do very little to excite me. While I was writing this portion of the script, I actively found myself getting bored and spacing out. I was watching Wheel of Fortune instead of writing about this song. There are worse songs in their catalog for sure, don't get me wrong, but there are certainly a whole lot of better ones than Loose Cannon, at least to me. Who's in Control is another one that really didn't grab me, containing a bland and forgettable set of verses, but those verses are music to my ears when I hear the chorus of the song, which I personally find to be so annoying and repetitive. All right, this next one's gonna sound just so nitpicky, so hear me out. It's the Magic 8. To me, the Magic 8 is a massive mixed expectations. The way this song flows, I was expecting it to take on a faster feel in the chorus, similar to one of Set It Off's faster dancing songs like No Disrespect or Different Songs. Unfortunately, to me, the Magic 8 is a track that feels too scared to do anything besides play it safe. Again, it's far from their worst work, but I think it's even further from being their best. The bridge is pretty good though. I'll give them that. They cooked with the bridge. Now, generally, I wouldn't call Elsewhere a bipolar album, because I think it's pretty consistently on the same level of quality for most of the album. But one individual song that I would call bipolar is Playing with Bad Luck. This song had me snoozing through the first verse just to get gut punched back to life for the chorus. Like I got pulsed with a defibrillator. I was really debating on whether I liked this song or not, but the verses are so sluggishly paced that I have to put it in the songs I didn't like. Simply put, I don't want to sit through the verses to get to the chorus, and that's that. Yeah, that was rough. That was unfortunate. If Elsewhere is your jam, if that's your album, you do you. What matters most is the meaning that you find in the music, the enjoyment that you find, not some random schmuck on the internet who can't pronounce his words right. For me, Elsewhere wasn't an album that grabbed me. It personally felt like a directionless miss. But if that's not what you feel in it, that's totally okay. And I would love to hear your perspective and maybe open my eyes to enjoying this album more. And with that, we're kind of left to wait. Set It Off's new album isn't out yet, but... Hello? Oh, really? Okay, I'm actually getting a call from our producers right now that the album is here and we're ready to talk about it. So I'm throwing it out to Dalton in the field. Dalton, what do you got for us?
Yeah, that is absolutely right, Dalton. I am here in the future with the release of the new Set It Off album, and I gotta say, it's pretty good. I am loving this project so much from them. God, this bit's so stupid. Flat out, this is an album that I went into with incredibly mixed expectations. Some of these singles really grabbed me. I think they're some of the best that they've ever put out in their career, and then others, yeah, I don't know. It just really fell flat for me, and I was left not knowing what the hell to expect from Self-Titled. This album also marks a distinct change in Set It Off's sound from the sort of pop rock outfit they've been known as for the last 15 years at this point, into basically a metalcore band. Over the years with new releases, Set It Off has really felt like they've gradually eased into new sounds, new styles, new influences, and the change into this new sound that they embody on Self-Titled has never been more stark, never been such a big contrast to anything else in their career since like Cinematics, which might be jarring for longtime fans and some newcomers, but for me, it works. It tickles the aggressive spot in my brain. Going hand in hand with the genre though, the biggest strength of Self-Titled is the production. It has never been more polished on any Set It Off album before. Past Set It Off albums have either blended together or felt distinct in a bland or negative way, and that can't be said of Self-Titled. It's confident, it's bold, it's excited to try new things, it's everything that Elsewhere felt like it struggled to be. This also feels like an incredibly confident Set It Off. Not just the album, but from the band itself. Like I said, this is their first full independent release, and it feels like they know that and they're so proud of it, free from the oversight of any record label. Not afraid to declare that this album is genuinely, authentically theirs. The tone and the vibe are also just perfect on Self-Titled. It feels like a callback to Cinematics with a more mature, aged touch to it, and God, it's just so good. Self-Titled is one cathartic, angry album. And if you've got stuff going on in your life that just makes you angry at someone or angry at the world or angry at anything, you are going to find something really, really enjoyable with this record. We'll go back and do our deep dive on the singles in a little bit, but I want to talk about how they were released first because it's something that I'm not too fond of. It seems like there's a recent trend where artists just put out basically the entire album before it's even out, and then when the actual thing rolls around, when the release date is here, we only get like 3 or 4 songs. Now, specifically with Set It Off, I see 2 sides of the coin here, 2 sides of the fate that I think are equally valuable. On the negative side, it just makes the release a lot less exciting for us. Now look, I get it, TikTok and short form content are crazy these days, and you really, really want your songs to go viral there before the album comes out. But having so many songs out before the full project release just kind of cheapens the full release for me. One of my favorite parts about new albums releasing is the anticipation of it all, the not knowing what to expect. And when you've got so many songs out before the album's even released, it just kind of softens the blow a little bit. On the positive side though, I want to give Set It Off a bit of credit and make an assumption that when these earlier singles started coming out 2.5 years ago, I don't think they knew what this was going to be. I don't think they knew what form this project was going to manifest in. I do think that there's something to be said about self-discovery and kind of going with the flow with this release cycle. And I truly believe that the band put out Punching Bag, put out Win Win, put out Evil People, and realized, oh, this might be something that we want to develop into a full project, and then went with it from there. That's at least how I see it. I'm making a wild assumption here, so I could be dead wrong, but that's how I visualize it. Tying Duality, self-titled has 7 singles, those being Punching Bag, Evil People, Parasite, Fake Ass Friends, Creating Monsters, Rotten, and Pathological. This is a lot of singles, but we've already talked about that, so let's move on to the lead single, quite possibly my favorite single, Punching Bag. Punching Bag feels like a blend of the styles from Cinematics and Elsewhere, with the classic instrumentation and heavier inspiration of Cinematics, alongside some modern electronic influence of Elsewhere. It's probably not nearly as aggressive of a song compared to those from Cinematics, and it isn't anywhere near as bland as the songs of Elsewhere. What I'm trying to say is, it is a great track, and an incredibly fitting track to mark your debut as an independent band. Right down to the angsty, standoffish lyrics and the soft string sections in the background, this feels like I Am the Punching Bag, gut punched all the way back to 2012 when Cinematics first came out. Now, like I said, I have been pretty hit or miss with these singles over the years, but one that has stuck with me right from when it came out was Fake Ass Friends. This song came into my life at an oddly perfect moment, around the time where I found out a few folks were not as real as I thought they were. It's maybe not as strong as some of Set It Off's other singles on past albums, but I think it is still powerful, especially in the context of self-titled. It fits into that cathartic and dramatic sound that they are trying to achieve, with an electric flow and powerful downbeat with each chorus. It feels like a song that someone would use as an entrance song into a wrestling ring. It feels very standoffish and powerful, and that works for me. Now let's talk about a single that I haven't been so crazy on until very recently, until I started writing this video, that being Parasite. I've gone back to this song so many times and tried to appreciate it over the years, and I just couldn't. I don't know what it was, but on this most recent listen, this is probably the fondest I've ever been towards this song. Parasite is paced well, Cody's vocals are arguably the best they've ever been in the band's entire career, and the production is out of this world, as it is across the entire album. Every single chorus feels like a bold release of pressure and energy, with the word Parasite being a huge point of accentuating that energy. If I remember correctly, Set It Off started a lot of their live shows with the song last year, and I could never picture how that would work. Okay, I get it now. Straight up, I get it. The last single that I want to discuss is Pathological, but it's not one that I got into until the full album was out, and there's a deliberate reason for that. After seeing the track list, I waited purposely to listen to Pathological until the full album came out. As the first song of the album, I wanted my first experience with Pathological to be as an album opener, not as a single or a standalone song. And let me tell you, best decision I've made with this album yet. This is another track that just sounds cinematic, right from the swelling intro into some of the heavier Josh Dun-esque drumming, and a break of silence before the first chorus. The pacing, performances, and production of Pathological are all insanely polished and exciting. Pathological is a track that I can see myself coming back to not just as an opener whenever I listen to the album, but as a standalone song as well. It's versatile. Now, I've only had so long to digest this album. I mean, it came out yesterday from the time that I'm recording this, but one song that has really stuck with me throughout these multiple listens is Switch. I listened to Self-Titled right when it came out at midnight, and I was jotting down thoughts as I was listening, and I couldn't stop myself from dancing when I got to this song. The drums create such a fun and exciting beat on Switch, one that's impossible to not bob my head along to. The band uses dynamics excellently on this song, with each verse dropping off into lower dynamics before exploding into a loud and exciting chorus. I also love how quickly Cody says the word switch. In my head, I picture a light switch, and the quick spit of the word feels like the flick of a switch. It works. Off Rip Switch is probably my favorite song on the entire album, but again, I've only listened to it so many times so far, and I can see that changing in a little bit. All right, now let's talk about some of Self-Titled's lower points. There's really only two that I want to talk about, starting with Evil People. This song came out just over 2 years ago, and while I was initially fond of it, I also found that it was a song that lost its appeal on me very quickly. All around, I find Evil People to be a mostly boring track with a really poorly paced bridge. It's a cool bridge, don't get me wrong, the production is still great, but it just feels like it's a little much for me. Like it overstays its welcome and drags the song out way longer than it needs to be. It also feels a bit redundant to include both this track and Fake Ass Friends on the album, especially with how close these two songs are to each other on the track list, but that's just me. I'm sure it's not that bad to most people. Now, the next one might be a little controversial that I have some problems with, but let me explain, hear me out. It is the reborn version of Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. I have problems with this track both as a standalone song and as an intricate piece of the album, but let's start with it as its own song. The changes the band has made for Wolf Reborn are just overwhelming and disappointing at the same time. We lose the horns of the song, which are subtle, but do feel like a really crucial part of the song's identity to me. This new version just feels a lot less colorful to me, like it has a lot less charm and character than the original did. As a more intricate piece of the album, though, it also feels like a bit of a jarring track. It's always one that comes out of left field to me whenever I've been listening to this album, a track I found myself forgetting about and being reminded of the moment it starts. And more than anything, it just throws me back to 2014 than it does keep me immersed in the sound of Self-Titled. Personally, I would have strongly preferred Win Win making it onto the track list over this song, their second independent single that's mysteriously missing from Self-Titled. That's just me though. I do see the value in them including Wolf on this album, given how important this song has been in their musical journey, and given how this album is basically a love letter to what they can do as independent artists. But personally, it just pulls me out of it more than anything. Being fully frontal for a moment, this is not an album I was expecting to enjoy nearly as much as I did. From front to back, this was such a polished and confident piece of work, and I think it's safe to say it makes it into my top 10 albums of the year, and makes me infinitely more excited to finally see them live this month. That's neither here nor there, though. The video's almost over, and realistically, I know what you're all waiting for, so let's just get right into it. When I get to this point in the video in this series, ranking every album is usually pretty difficult because I have a lot of conflicting thoughts and new thoughts collide with old thoughts. That wasn't the case. This is probably the easiest ranking that I've done in this entire series, so let's just dive right in. Number 6, Elsewhere. This one really shouldn't come as a surprise given the glowing review that I gave to this album. It's got its high moments, don't get me wrong, but it just feels so directionless, uncomposed, unconfident, that I can't put it anywhere besides the bottom. Number 5, Upside Down. While the songwriting on this album is not my favorite across Set It Off's catalog, I will say that it is a far more composed and confident project than Elsewhere, and even if I'm not too fond of the style that they're going for with this album, I have to recognize that they picked a direction and committed to it. Number 4, Duality. All things considered, this is a pretty big jump in quality going from number 5 to number 4, and who can really blame me, right? Duality is quintessential Set It Off. It's so good, and it's one that I can see climbing the ranks further if I give it more time of day. Number 3, Set It Off. To me, Self-Titled is a testament not only to how far the band has come, but to what they are able to accomplish. It feels confident, not just as a piece of music, but it feels like a statement of confidence in the band members themselves saying, yeah, we can do this, watch us do it again. Number 2, Midnight. This is a bit of a surprise upset for me because for the last 5.5 years, Midnight has been my favorite Set It Off album of all time. And this most recent listen showed me that it's not as consistent as I remember, but it's still pretty damn consistent. Also, I would literally die for unopened windows, so I think that's worth noting.
I don't particularly care for unopened windows.
Keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth!
And number 1, Cinematics. Maybe I've just been feeling nostalgic during this video, but god damn, this album is so good. So much better than I remember it being. And that's the thing too, is I don't even remember this album being that bad, but it was never my number 1. It got pretty close, it was never there until this video. Cinematics is edgy, angsty, punky. It's so good And again, it embodies the title. It is cinematic. What more could you possibly ask for? Set It Off, as I've mentioned, is a very special artist to me, given how close it has brought me and my brother together. And I'm very happy that I've finally gotten to make a video on them. And I think that's about all I've got to say. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.